Chapter 169. The Meng Yuan Empire is going south. As soon as this news came out, the whole world fell into extreme fear. As a huge country that occupies the endless grasslands in the north, the Meng Yuan Empire has always been eyeing the other countries covetously. If it weren't for the fact that they were worried that the other countries would join forces, the world would have long been engulfed in the flames of war. Now, with the imperial teacher entering the myth realm, the Meng Yuan Empire no longer intended to endure and directly mobilized the army. Northern Song. Imperial Palace. The Song Emperor and many ministers had ugly faces, but no one dared to speak. The Meng Yuan Empire has sent 5 million troops, and the imperial teacher has reached the myth realm. No matter which one it is enough to shake the whole world. I underestimated the imperial teacher. Yui was silent for a long time and whispered. As the Grand Marshal of the Northern Song, Yu Yi's strength has reached peak grade 1. He can be said to be the strongest in the Northern Song. 30 years ago, Yu Yi fought with the imperial teacher. Although he was not his opponent at that time, he roughly understood the other party's level. Originally, in Yu Yi's view, the imperial teacher was still some distance away from the myth realm. Whether he could complete the third transformation in his life and reach grade 1 great perfection was another matter, let alone the myth realm. But now, in just 30 years, the other party had leaped to the extreme and broken through to the martial arts legend realm that he did not even dare to imagine. One could imagine the complicated feelings in Yu Yi's heart. General Yu. I just want to know, what are the odds of the Northern Song winning? The Song Emperor's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Yu Yi and said in a trembling voice. That's? Yu Yi thought for a while and said, if there is no imperial teacher and the Meng Yuan Empire sends 5 million troops, my Song Empire will join forces with the other countries and have an 80% chance of stopping them. 80% chance? The Song Emperor's eyes lit up, and his heart finally relaxed a little. He knows Yu Yi's character very well. Since he said 80%, it means that he is very confident. As long as there is no accident, stopping the Meng Yuan Empire will not be a problem. Then what about the imperial teacher? The Song Emperor looked at Yu Yi expectantly. Plus the imperial teacher? Yu Yi was silent again, and finally said slowly, we can't stop them. As soon as these words came out, the Song Emperor's face suddenly turned pale. We can't stop them. We can't stop them. Yu Yi didn't even consider the possibility of stopping them. What should we do? What should we do? Emperor Song sighed, his face ashen. He believed that he had been diligent ever since he ascended the throne. Although he was not a wise ruler, he was not an incapable ruler either. Emperor Song would never have thought that he would be the one to face the end of his nation. Your Majesty. Actually, you don't have to worry. At this moment, a minister stepped forward and bowed slightly. Not worried? The nation is gone, and you want me to not worry? The Song Emperor didn't even have the strength to be angry. He sighed. Your Majesty. The official who stood up paused for a moment and continued, the Meng Yuan Empire's main target is definitely not our Song Kingdom. When the Song Emperor heard this, he was shocked. The Empire of Tang occupies the Central Plains, and there is also a martial arts legend in Chang'an City. If the Meng Yuan Empire wants to unify the world, they will definitely use most of their military forces on the Empire of Tang. The Meng Yuan Empire and the Empire of Tang are two tigers fighting. Even if one side wins, the other side will definitely suffer heavy losses. At that time, we can join forces with the other countries and solve these two hidden dangers in one fell swoop. The more the Song Emperor listened, the brighter his eyes became. In the end, he kept nodding. My dear minister is right. I didn't think it through properly. A smile finally appeared on the Song Emperor's face. As the news of the Meng Yuan Empire's southward spread, not only the Song dynasty, but also the other countries in the world realized that the Meng Yuan Empire was declaring war on the Empire of Tang. Throughout the world, except for the Empire of Tang, which country could compete with the Meng Yuan Empire? For a moment, not only were the countries in the world relieved, but they also wanted to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. The Empire of Tang. Taiji Palace. The Emperor of Tang sat high on the dragon throne with a dignified look on his face. My dear ministers, what do you think of the Meng Yuan Empire's southward invasion? The Emperor of Tang glanced at the civil and military officials in the court and said, Your Majesty, since the imperial preceptor of the Meng Yuan Empire has entered the myth realm, he doesn't know the one in the imperial palace. The Minister of War stood out and said, Invite the one in the imperial palace? The Emperor of Tang was silent, not knowing how to respond. He also wanted to invite him, but he didn't even know who the other party was. How could he invite him? How could he invite him? Maybe the legend in the imperial palace has already left. What else? The Emperor of Tang calmed down and asked again. Your Majesty, there is no other way. The Minister of War couldn't help but say, If we don't invite the one in the imperial palace, the Empire of Tang has no chance of winning. What the Minister of War said was true. Originally, the Meng Yuan Empire's 5 million troops had already put a lot of pressure on the Empire of Tang, plus the imperial preceptor of the Meng Yuan Empire. They couldn't fight at all, and there was no way to fight. When two armies fight, they must be evenly matched to have the desire to fight, but the current situation is that the Meng Yuan Empire is simply crushing the Empire of Tang. I know. The Emperor of Tang sighed softly and continued, Pass my order, mobilize all the armies in the world and gather them in front of Chang'an City. I want to fight the Meng Yuan Empire in Chang'an City. As soon as the Emperor of Tang said this, the faces of the ministers in the court changed. Fight the Meng Yuan Empire in Chang'an City? Isn't that giving up the territory outside Chang'an City to the Meng Yuan Empire? Most of the ministers in the court were puzzled, but a small number of them turned pale and faintly realized the reason why the Emperor of Tang did this. Could it be that the one in the imperial palace had a problem? The ministers were uneasy, but they could only follow the orders of the Emperor of Tang. Time passed slowly. 6 months passed in a blink of an eye. In these 6 months, the Emperor of Tang summoned all the armies in the Empire of Tang and gathered them outside Chang'an City. And on this day, the Emperor of Tang and many ministers stepped on the city wall of Chang'an City. Your Majesty, the Meng Yuan Empire's army has arrived. The commander of the Forbidden Army walked to the side of the Emperor of Tang and bowed. They're here? The Emperor of Tang looked up outside Chang'an City. He saw a layer of thin black lines slowly appear at the end of his line of sight. This layer of thin black lines was like a swarm of locusts, densely packed, exuding a cold and murderous aura. The Meng Yuan Empire had mobilized the power of a country and 5 million troops and was about to arrive outside Chang'an City. Buzz! At this moment, a terrifying aura rose from the depths of the Meng Yuan Empire's army and swept toward Chang'an City. Wherever the aura passed, countless soldiers of the Empire of Tang turned pale and felt that every time they moved, they had to exert several times more strength than before. Even ordinary martial artists, under the shroud of this aura, felt that their internal force was circulating slowly and their strength was suppressed. This is? The commander of the Forbidden Army's expression changed greatly as he turned to look at the Emperor of Tang. Your Majesty, the imperial teacher of the Meng Yuan Empire has made a move. At the same time, under Chang'an City, in the majestic palace, Su Qin slowly opened his eyes. Chapter 170. Finally, the 7th heavenly layer. Su Qin exhaled softly and began to converge his aura and calm his blood and qi. I didn't expect it to be so smooth, without any twists and turns. A smile appeared on Su Qin's face. He was very satisfied. True essence, body, and divine sense have soared by at least 10 times. Now, I can suppress a 6th heavenly layer legend with just one finger. Su Qin felt the vast sea of true essence, qi, and blood in his body and judged in his heart. Although the breakthrough was smooth, this retreat took 6 months. If it weren't for the Incarnation's daily sign-ins in the cave world, I'm afraid I would have suffered a great loss. Su Qin glanced at the black devils well not far away and thought to himself. If it weren't for the Incarnation's daily sign-ins, Su Qin would have definitely wasted 6 months of sign insurance. 6 months of sign insurance. According to the calculation of 1 sign-ins per day, there are a total of 180 sign insurance. Even if he can only get one demon origin fruit each time, it is still 180 demon origin fruits. Let's see what's happening outside. Su Qin stretched his muscles and bones and casually released his divine sense, which easily covered a radius of 100 miles. Huh! The Meng Yuan Empire's army is coming to Chang'an City? Su Qin's thoughts moved, and he took a step forward and disappeared. On the city wall of Chang'an City, the Emperor of Tang's face was pale. The face of the Forbidden Army commander next to him was also ugly. As a peak Grade 1 Great Grandmaster, although the Forbidden Army commander was not suppressed by the Imperial teacher dozens of miles away, it was obvious that he was aware of the gap between him and the other party. Your Majesty, why don't we evacuate? In any case, saving our lives is the most important thing. The Forbidden Army commander couldn't help but say. Perhaps others are still counting on the legend in the Emperor of Tang's palace to take action. However, as the confidant of the Emperor of Tang, the commander of the Forbidden Army had learned from the Emperor of Tang several months ago that even the Emperor of Tang himself did not know who the martial arts legend in the palace of the Emperor of Tang was and whether or not he would make a move. Under such circumstances, the commander of the Forbidden Army naturally advised the Emperor of Tang to prioritize saving his own life. As for the rest, he could only take one step at a time. The Emperor of Tang glanced at the commander of the Forbidden Army and said softly, "You want me to abandon the millions of people in Chang'an, abandon the Tang dynasty, and escape alone?" The emperor guarded the country's gates. The king died for the state. As the emperor of the Empire of Tang, if the Emperor of Tang really escaped, how could he face the previous emperors of the Empire of Tang? This general, the commander of the Forbidden Army faintly sensed the determination in the Emperor of Tang's words. He knelt on one knee and solemnly said, "Before this general dies, nothing will happen to your Majesty." The commander of the Forbidden Army's words revealed his determination to die. He is a peak Grade 1 Great Grandmaster. If he wants to leave, unless the Imperial teacher personally takes action, no one can stop him. However, the commander of the Forbidden Army did not have such thoughts. Because he is the commander of the Forbidden Army. Everything he has now was given to him by the Empire of Tang. Good. Very good. The Emperor of Tang's face showed a gratified expression. At this moment, the Emperor of Tang glanced at him from the corner of his eyes and suddenly froze. He then asked, "Third brother, when did you come back?" "Just now." Su Qin walked to the city wall unhurriedly and glanced at the Meng Yuan army that was still 20 miles away. Before Su Qin was ready to enter seclusion and step into the 6th heavenly layer, he had already informed the Emperor of Tang and the family Su that he would be going on a long trip. "Third brother, you shouldn't have come back," the Emperor of Tang sighed softly, his face full of bitterness. Su Qin could have come back at any time, but why did he have to come back at this time? "Third brother, I will have someone escort you out of Chang'an City. No matter what happens in the future, don't come back." The Emperor of Tang looked solemn and said seriously, "Leave? Why should I leave?" Su Qin's eyes were calm as he replied casually, "Why should I leave?" The Emperor of Tang was stunned. He looked at the Meng Yuan army 20 miles away, and then looked at Su Qin. He did not react at all. "Why should I leave? The Meng Yuan army is coming. If I don't leave, am I waiting to die under the enemy's weapons?" "Third brother, not only you have to leave, but Yun, Yuan, and Wan also have to leave. Take care of them for me," the Emperor of Tang said in a deep voice. Although the Emperor of Tang has made up his mind to live and die with Chang'an City, it does not mean that he will watch Su Yueyun and Li Wan die with him. Yun is still asleep and can't leave third brother's care. Yuan and Wan are still young and need third brother's guidance. "This is the last time I'm begging you, third brother." The Emperor of Tang bowed slightly to Su Qin and said bitterly, "I'm not an emperor. Not only did I not let third brother enjoy glory and wealth, but I also made third brother run for his life. There's no need." Su Qin didn't even look at the Emperor of Tang. Time passed slowly. Several hours passed in the blink of an eye. The Meng Yuan army stopped 10 miles away from Chang'an City. For a time, the smell of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood came from 10 miles away. It's over. Now we can't leave even if we want to. The Emperor of Tang felt a chill in his heart and looked at Su Qin next to him. In the past few hours, the Emperor of Tang has been persuading Su Qin to leave, but it didn't work at all. This made the Emperor of Tang almost jump. Just after the Meng Yuan army stopped, the army dispersed, and a tall man slowly walked out. Is that the imperial teacher of the Meng Yuan Empire? The Emperor of Tang saw this scene and his face suddenly turned pale. The other people on the city wall also looked dignified, and almost all of their eyes were focused on the tall man. Under everyone's gaze, the tall man took a few steps and slowly stopped, then looked at Chang and city in the distance and said lightly, "When I left the Meng Yuan Empire, I was looking forward to it." The tall man's voice was not loud, but it spread over 10 miles and clearly resounded in the ears of the Emperor of Tang and others. "I'm looking forward to fighting with another legend. I am a warrior, and even if I die, I should die in a fight, not like a tortoise waiting to die of old age." The imperial teacher's voice became louder and louder, and finally, it was like a bronze bell, constantly shaking in all directions. "But now I am disappointed. I'm completely and utterly disappointed. It turns out that there is no legend in Chang'an City. All my expectations and fighting spirit along the way have turned to nothing." Meng Yuan's imperial teacher's words contained a hint of anger, and his last sentence was like a thunderclap that shook the earth. On the city wall of Chang'an City, everyone only felt a roar in their mind, and the roar of the imperial teacher echoed in their ears. There was only one thought in everyone's mind. There is no legend in Chang'an City? There is no legend in Chang'an City? There is no legend in Chang'an City? For a long time, the reason why they had the courage to stand here and face the 5 million troops of the Meng Yuan Empire was because they had placed their hopes on the legend in the depths of the imperial palace. But now, the imperial teacher actually said that there is no legend in Chang'an City? Without a legend, how can they resist the Meng Yuan Empire? I didn't expect that the legend in Chang'an City would actually leave. The emperor's eyes lit up as he muttered to himself. Before he came, he was still worried about who was stronger between the imperial teacher and the legend in Chang'an City. But now, if there is no legend in Chang'an City, there is no need for the imperial teacher to take action. The Meng Yuan Empire's army is enough to trample Chang'an City. Unify the world. My Meng Yuan Empire will end the chaos, unify the world, and establish a great cause. The emperor's eyes were full of heat. On the city wall, the Emperor of Tang's face was pale, and there was a deep despair on his face. Just now, he still had a glimmer of hope in his heart, thinking that the legend in the depths of the imperial palace might take action to stop the imperial teacher. But now, hearing the imperial teacher's words, the Emperor of Tang suddenly fell into an abyss. The Emperor of Tang did not suspect that the imperial teacher was lying. Now that the war is imminent, there is no point in the imperial teacher lying. If the legend was really in Chang'an City, he would have taken action long ago and would not wait until now. Thinking of this, the Emperor of Tang only felt his vision go black, his legs went soft, and he fell to the ground. Suddenly, at this moment, a slender and powerful right hand supported the Emperor of Tang. Third brother. Emperor Li Sheng barely recovered. When he saw Su Qin, who was supporting him, he bitterly said, "Third brother, I'm sorry, 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 I'm sorry to the Su family, and I'm sorry to the countless people of the Tang Empire." "Don't say sorry." Su Qin directly interrupted the Emperor of Tang, retracted his right hand, and slowly walked forward. "Third brother, what are you going to do?" The Emperor of Tang suddenly reacted and asked subconsciously. Su Qin didn't even turn his head, he only left these 2 words. "Kill him." P.S. New week, looking for monthly votes. Chapter 171. Kill him. When the Emperor of Tang heard these 2 words, his first reaction was that Su Qin was going to kill someone, and his second reaction was, "Not good, the third brother is going to fall." At this moment, They were on the city wall of Chang and city. If Su Qin continues to move forward, he will inevitably walk out of the city wall and fall down. Chang and city, as the ancient capital of the 10 dynasties, has a high city wall. Even if a martial artist falls from here, he will inevitably be covered in dust. What's more, the gate of Chang and city is now closed. If Su Qin really falls outside the city wall, he will definitely not be able to come in a short time. If at this time, the Meng Yuan Empire's army launches an attack, Su Qin will probably have to face the Meng Yuan Empire's army alone. Thinking of this, the Emperor of Tang suddenly became anxious. Stop the third brother. The Emperor of Tang looked at the Forbidden Army commander next to him. As you wish. The Forbidden Army commander bowed slightly and was about to make a move. However, the next moment, under the incredulous gaze of the Forbidden Army commander, Su Qin stepped out, and his figure appeared outside the city wall. He walked in the air, step by step, toward the Meng Yuan Empire's army, as if he was stepping on an invisible ladder. This is... The Forbidden Army commander's pupils shrank fiercely, and in a flash, 4 words suddenly flashed in his mind. Riding the wind. The Forbidden Army commander's heart was set off a monstrous wave. Throughout the ages, only the legendary martial arts legends or venerable Arhat can step on the sky and the earth and ride the wind. The third brother. How can the third brother fly? The Emperor of Tang blinked his eyes, his mind was in a mess, and he couldn't react for a long time. Not far away. The family Su people were also looking at the battlefield with worry. At this moment, Su Sungho exclaimed, "The third brother won't take it too hard, right?" As soon as he said this, Su Shimin and Su Qinyu immediately looked up, and their expressions changed greatly. However, when they saw Su Qin walking in the air, their eyes widened in disbelief. Meng Yuan Empire's army. The emperor carefully walked to the side of the imperial teacher and probed, "Imperial teacher, is there really no legend in Chang and city?" Although the Meng Yuan Empire's imperial teacher had disappointed him by shouting at the Empire of Tang in front of the 2 armies, the emperor still wanted to hear the imperial teacher say it again. The imperial teacher glanced at the monarch and said lightly, "Just now, I used my divine sense to scan the city. If there really is a legend in Chang'an City, how could it be hidden from me? To us, the aura of an expert of the same level is as dazzling as the sun, unless the other party is far stronger than us." As the imperial teacher spoke, he suddenly laughed. Imperial Preceptor is invincible in the world. How can there be an existence far superior to Imperial Preceptor in this world? The Meng Yuan Emperor immediately complimented. Then, Imperial Teacher, should I order the army to attack the city now? The Meng Yuan Emperor calmed down, suppressed the joy in his heart, and quickly asked. After saying this, the emperor bowed and stood in place, patiently waiting for the Imperial Teacher's next instruction. Imperial Teacher? The emperor waited for a while, but he still did not hear the Imperial Teacher's reply, so he couldn't help but look up. However, when the emperor looked over, he saw that the originally indifferent Imperial Teacher had a dignified expression as he stared in a certain direction. What is the Imperial Teacher looking at? The emperor was shocked and quickly followed the Imperial Teacher's gaze and looked in the direction of Chang and city. He saw a figure stepping on the sky from Chang and city, approaching the Meng Yuan Empire's army at a leisurely pace. This is... The emperor's complexion suddenly changed. This figure was walking in the air. Every step he took seemed to be stepping on an invisible ladder. There was no leverage at all. Even a peak grade 1 great grandmaster would not be able to do this. The emperor had only seen this scene from the Imperial Teacher. Just as the emperor was inexplicably horrified, Su Qin had already arrived at the Meng Yuan Empire's army alone. At this moment, he was surrounded by 5 million Meng Yuan Empire's army, but his expression did not change in the slightest. It was as if he was not facing 5 million soldiers, but 500 ants. Are you the legend of Chang and city? The Imperial Teacher stared at Su Qin in surprise and asked in a low voice. Even now, when Su Qin stood in front of him, the Imperial Teacher could not feel the other party's aura at all. If it weren't for Su Qin stepping on the sky and showing the ability of a legend, the imperial teacher might have thought that Su Qin was just an ordinary person. A legend? Su Qin nodded, then shook his head. Huh. The imperial teacher frowned, unable to figure out what Su Qin meant. At this moment, Su Qin said slowly, "If you continue to hide in the grassland, you can live a few more years." When these words came out, the imperial teacher's expressions suddenly became gloomy. As the first legend of the endless grassland in the past 200 years, the imperial teacher has been unstoppable since he stepped into the martial Dao. When has he ever been looked down upon like this? Since you've come out. Then let me see what you're capable of. The imperial teacher took a step forward, and his aura began to rise crazily. His blood and qi soared to the sky, faintly connecting with the 5 million Meng Yuan Empire's army. In an instant, the Meng Yuan imperial teacher seemed to have transformed into a giant that reached the heavens. His every move shook the heavens and earth. The imperial teacher of the Meng Yuan Empire was not a fool. To be able to become a martial arts legend, the imperial teacher of the Meng Yuan Empire was not a strategist, but at least he knew how to judge the situation. There were only two possibilities for Su Qin to be able to hide his aura in front of him. First, the other party has some kind of legend-level secret technique to hide his aura. Second, Su Qin's strength is far greater than his. If it was the former, the imperial teacher did not need to retreat at all. He could directly fight with Su Qin. If it was the latter, the imperial teacher could not retreat. Since the other party's strength was far greater than the imperial teacher's, how could the imperial teacher escape? Therefore, Meng Yuan's imperial teacher did not hesitate to go all out. He merged his blood and qi with the 5 million Meng Yuan Empire's army. Although he could obtain the power of the 5 million Meng Yuan Empire's vast national fortune, his blood and qi would be contaminated afterwards. He did not know how long it would take to recover. Die. The imperial teacher was like a god, tearing through the air and rushing towards Su Qin. Seeing this scene, Su Qin's expression remained unchanged. He just gently raised his right hand and casually pressed it towards the imperial teacher. "I'm going all out, but you're only responding with a finger?" Seeing this scene, the imperial teacher was furious. His blood and qi surged, and his speed skyrocketed again. Imperial teacher will win. The Meng Yuan Empire will win. Not far away, the emperor of the Meng Empire and the generals saw this scene, and their faces showed a happy expression. Although they were not legends, they could still see the situation on the battlefield at this moment. The imperial teacher had a monstrous momentum, while Su Qin was standing there alone. It was clear at a glance who was stronger and who was weaker. After this battle, the imperial teacher will definitely suppress the world. At that time, the other countries will not even dare to resist. The emperor of the Meng Yuan Empire had already imagined the fear of the other countries in the world, and a look of contempt appeared on his face. But soon, the emperor's expression froze, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. In his eyes, as Su Qin pressed down with his finger, the imperial teacher, who was originally monstrous, suddenly stopped and was penetrated by a force. The blood of a legend spilled on the ground. The imperial teacher fell straight to the ground, no longer breathing. Chapter 172. How is this possible? The 5 million troops of the Meng Yuan Empire were stunned. They watched the godlike imperial teacher get pierced by a finger. They almost thought that what they saw was an illusion. The imperial teacher is dead? How could the imperial teacher die? The emperor's hands and feet were cold, and he was terrified. Just a moment ago, he was still thinking about the surrender of all countries and the unification of the Meng Yuan Empire. But in the blink of an eye, the imperial teacher died. With the death of the imperial teacher, the Meng Yuan Empire lost its greatest reliance. Although the Meng Yuan Empire can still occupy the endless grasslands with its national strength, it will be a complete joke if it unifies the world. Many generals next to the emperor felt a chill in their hearts. They thought further than others. Now that the imperial teacher is dead, what should they do next? The 5 million troops of the Meng Yuan Empire can be said to be the power of the entire country. Once the expedition fails and they return to the empire, they will face the resentment of the people, And many generals looked at Su Qin, who killed the imperial teacher with a finger, and their scalps exploded. Whether they can return to the empire safely is a problem, let alone face the resentment of the people. Compared to the dead silence of the Meng Yuan Empire's army, the Empire of Tang cheered. Countless soldiers of the Empire of Tang were full of joy. They didn't know Su Qin. They only knew that Su Qin stepped into the sky and killed the imperial teacher of the Meng Yuan Empire, saving countless people of the Empire of Tang. Long live the Empire of Tang! Long live His Majesty! The people of Chang and city couldn't help but shout. Is that person the legend of the imperial palace? A girl with an elegant temperament looked at Su Qin with admiration. He looks about the same age as me. I don't know if he is married. The young lady lowered her head and spoke in a voice as soft as a mosquito. Hee. A martial artist next to her heard this and shook his head. How respected is a legend? How could he fall in love with someone like you? When the martial artist said this, he didn't continue. But the meaning of his words was equivalent to telling the other party that he wasn't worthy. You. The girl with an elegant temperament blushed, stomped her feet, and hurriedly ran away. When the others saw this scene, they looked at each other and smiled. They didn't think that there was anything wrong with the girl's thoughts, but whether they could do it or not was another matter. However, the strength of my Tang Empire's legend is terrifying. He should have already reached the depths of the myth realm. A martial artist of the upper realm sighed with emotion sighed. Indeed. The other martial artists nodded in agreement. Since Su Qin could easily kill the imperial teacher, it was obvious that his strength was far above the latter. Legend is the emperor's emperor, the imperial emperor. The third brother killed the imperial teacher Su Qin? The emperor of Tang hadn't recovered from the scene of Su Qin stepping into the sky, but when he saw the imperial teacher die at the hands of Su Qin, his mind went blank again. After a long time, the emperor of Tang reluctantly reacted. He looked at the Forbidden Army commander next to him and asked in a hoarse voice, "What happened just now?" "Your Majesty." The Forbidden Army commander's face also flashed with shock, disbelief, and many other emotions. Finally, he took a deep breath and sighed. The imperial uncle killed the imperial teacher Su Qin. After the Forbidden Army commander said this, he calmed down and continued, "Your Majesty, the imperial uncle is the legend in the imperial palace." When the Forbidden Army commander said this, images of Su Qin kept flashing in his mind. In the eyes of the Forbidden Army commander, Su Qin has some ability, and even the Emperor of Tang praised him, but all of this is nothing compared to the identity of a legend. So, I've actually met a martial arts legend so many times. The commander of the Imperial Guard looked very emotional. He commanded the Forbidden Army in the Imperial Palace and often patrolled. Occasionally, he would see Su Qin strolling around the Imperial Palace. I should have thought of it, I should have thought of it, I should have thought of it. The Emperor of Tang only felt a roar in his mind as he muttered to himself. In the past hundreds of years in the Empire of Tang, except for the great ancestor, no one has ever heard of anyone becoming a legend. The Emperor of Tang's Imperial Palace had a legend, which happened after Su Qin moved into the Eastern Palace. Moreover, every time the legend in the Imperial Palace took action, it was when the Emperor of Tang was facing a life-and-death crisis. Obviously, the legend only cared about the life of the Emperor of Tang. The Emperor of Tang's mind was full of thoughts as he stared blankly at Su Qin, who was standing alone in the depths of the Meng Yuan army. Little Qin. The two brothers Su Shimin and Su Sungho looked at each other with blank faces, not knowing what happened. Meng Yuan army. Su Qin killed the imperial teacher Su Qin with a single finger without any change in his expression. Although the imperial teacher Su Qin was a legend, he should be invincible in his era, but unfortunately he met Su Qin. Su Qin had already stepped into the seventh heavenly layer, and the gap between the imperial teacher and Su Qin was no different from an ordinary person challenging venerable Arhat. It could even be said that it was far more than that. If Su Qin had not just broken through and wanted to familiarize himself with his strength, he could have killed the imperial teacher Su Qin in Chang and city from 10 miles away. At this moment, a violent shout came. "You killed my imperial teacher, and we will not rest until one of us is dead. Army, listen to my order. Whoever can injure this person will be rewarded with 100,000 gold taels and land. Whoever can kill this person will be given the title of king and will share the endless grassland with the emperor." This voice was low and powerful, and it instantly spread across a radius of several miles. Suddenly, there was a slight commotion in the Meng Yuan army's 5 million soldiers. There will always be brave men when there is a great reward. Even if these soldiers witnessed Su Qin killing the imperial teacher with their own eyes, since they joined the army, who doesn't want to make a name for themselves? At this moment, the general who had just issued the military order quickly came to the emperor's side and whispered, "Emperor, run." Obviously, the general didn't think that 5 million troops could deal with Su Qin. The reason why he issued such a military order was nothing more than to sacrifice 5 million troops to buy time for the emperor. In his opinion, even if Su Qin was strong, it would take time to kill 5 million troops, right? If sacrificing 5 million troops could allow the emperor to escape, everything would be worth it. Escape? The emperor looked at the general, and a glimmer of hope suddenly appeared on his face. "Yes, as long as I escape back to the grassland, there will still be a chance." The emperor's heart had just ignited with hope, and he subconsciously looked back, wanting to see the situation on the battlefield. However, when he looked back, he saw a scene that he would never forget. Chapter 173. The Meng Yuan Empire's Army. Su Qin glanced at the 5 million soldiers who were ready to move. He shook his head slightly and said, "They don't know what death is." The next moment, a faint flame appeared in the depths of Su Qin's pupils, as if the sun was hovering in the sky, suppressing the world. The terrifying flame gushed out from Su Qin's pupils. At first, it only burned a few hundred meters, but then it quickly spread. As long as the Meng Yuan Empire's army was touched by the flame, they would burn like grass and turn into a fireball. Finally, all the flames gathered and burned fiercely, converging into 9 great suns that spanned across the world. 9 yang divine art, burning mountains and boiling seas. With Su Qin's current strength, even if he can't transform into a real great sun, it's easy for him to condense 9 fireballs that can burn everything. Walala, in an instant, the terrifying flame enveloped most of the battlefield. Countless Meng Yuan Empire's soldiers couldn't even let out a scream before they were burned into nothingness. What is this? The emperor was shocked and furious. He just turned around and was about to run away, but such a change happened on the battlefield. The great sun covered the sky and completely burned the 5 million soldiers of the Meng Yuan Empire. No! The emperor turned around and wanted to run, but the flames spread too fast. It caught up to him in an instant. Suddenly, under the burning of the flame, the emperor's body turned into nothingness inch by inch, no longer existing. Before completely losing consciousness, the emperor suddenly regretted it. If he didn't mobilize the army to declare war on the Empire of Tang, would the result be different? "Imperial teacher, you harmed me." The emperor of the Meng Yuan Empire suddenly disappeared and no longer existed. At this moment, the battlefield was gradually coming to an end. The 5 million Meng Yuan Empire's army couldn't even escape. They were all burned into nothingness by the flame. What kind of flame is this? On Chang and City, many civil and military officials saw this scene and swallowed fiercely and said in a trembling voice. They thought that a legend is very strong. Even if they are besieged by millions of soldiers, they can easily kill their way through without running out of true essence or vitality. Killing was one thing, but burning 5 million soldiers into nothingness in just a few moments like this, what kind of concept was this? It's about time. Su Qin thought as he scanned the battlefield. In truth, the 9 yang divine art was indeed powerful, but even the creator of this divine art was far from being able to do what Yi Futian had just done. He was able to incinerate an army of 5 million with a single thought. This was Su Qin's terrifying strength. He had raised the 9 yang divine art to several levels in one fell swoop. What a pity! The power of a flame that covers this area has been greatly weakened. It can only be used against martial artists of the 9th grade. Su Qin shook his head slightly and evaluated in his heart. If the 9 great suns were to be condensed into a single point, all of their powers would have been concentrated in one place, and they would have been able to hurt a martial arts legend. But if they are scattered like now, there is no threat to legends, and even some grade 1 great grandmasters can resist for a while. Just now, in the Meng Yuan Empire's army, several peak grade 1 were barely able to resist the flames, but as the power of the flames gathered, they were slowly burned into nothingness. Time to go back. Su Qin glanced at the battlefield again and finally looked in the direction of Chang. He took a step forward and disappeared. The Meng Yuan dynasty was defeated. The imperial teacher died on the spot. No one from the 5 million Meng Yuan Empire army survived. This news spread almost like a hurricane throughout the various countries. The Meng Yuan Empire's army of 5 million Meng Yuan Empire soldiers had already touched the heartstrings of the various countries in the world. Who knows how many spies were lying in ambush near Chang and city, passing the information back to the various countries at any time. The Meng Yuan Empire was defeated? The imperial teacher is dead. The Song Emperor's expression was ugly. He looked at the scout who brought back the news with a roar. Is this true or false? Reporting back to your majesty, this matter has been repeatedly confirmed. It should be. The scout kneeling in the hall trembled as he bowed his head and said, it should be true. Plop. The Song Emperor seemed to have lost all his strength and collapsed on the dragon throne, his face full of despair. What happened? Why was the Meng Yuan Empire defeated so thoroughly? Yue frowned and immediately asked. In his opinion, even if the Meng Yuan Empire and the Empire of Tang won and lost, at most, one side repelled the other. But now, the Meng Yuan Empire was completely defeated, no one survived, and the Meng Yuan Empire's imperial teacher, a legend, died on the spot. This is ridiculous. No one from the 5 million Meng Yuan Empire army survived? No one can do this. You have to know that when two armies fight, once one side shows an overwhelming advantage, the other side will inevitably be defeated and flee. In this case, how can the Empire of Tang stop the 5 million Meng Yuan Empire army? Not to mention 5 million Meng Yuan Empire army, even if 5 million pigs scattered, it's impossible to stop them all, right? Great General. According to the information, it was the legend of the Empire of Tang who killed the imperial teacher with one finger, then summoned the 9 great suns to burn everything, and burned the 5 million Meng Yuan Empire army into nothingness. At this point, the scout's teeth were chattering. Even if he was not on the battlefield, he could guess how terrifying the flames that could burn 5 million Meng Yuan Empire army were. The legend of the Empire of Tang. Yue was silent. After a long time, he said bitterly, how could he be so strong? It wasn't just the Song Empire. At the same time, almost all countries in the world received the news. Nanming. Ming Emperor was sitting on the dragon throne with a blank look. Since the fall of King Wuxiang in Chang and city, Nanming's foundation has been greatly damaged. After losing such a peak grade 1, Ming Emperor almost couldn't suppress the imperial court. Fortunately, in recent months, for some unknown reason, 2 grade 1 great grandmasters in Nanming successfully broke through and entered peak grade 1, which reignited Ming Emperor's ambition. However, before Ming Emperor could make a comeback, he heard bad news. In the war between the Empire of Tang and the Meng Yuan Empire, the Meng Yuan Empire was completely defeated. Not only did the imperial teacher, a legend, die in battle, but the Meng Yuan Empire's 5 million Meng Yuan army was also left outside Chang and city. The Ming Emperor was happy to see such a huge loss in the Meng Yuan Empire. But after today, the shadow of the Empire of Tang will probably completely shroud the other countries. Martial arts legend. Ming Emperor was pessimistic. With the ability shown by the legend of the Empire of Tang, not to mention this era, even throughout ancient times, no one can be his opponent, right? Just when the countries in the world were shaken. Chang'an City. The Emperor of Tang was ordering the army to clean up the battlefield and order the army to recover the lost and abandoned territory. Just then, a eunuch walked quickly to the Emperor of Tang and whispered a few words. What? The Emperor of Tang's face changed slightly when he heard this. Chapter 174. The Emperor of Tang looked dignified. He immediately put down all the matters in his hands, looked at the eunuch in front of him, and said word by word, "You mean, third brother wants me to go to Cunning Palace to find him?" "Reporting to your majesty, that's exactly what the imperial uncle said." "I see." The Emperor of Tang thought for a while and waved his hand. Later, the Emperor of Tang called Su Shimin, Su Sungho, and Su Qingyu to Cunning Palace. Along the way, whether it was Su Shimin, Su Sungho, or Su Qingyu, they were full of doubts. They felt like they were dreaming. So, they arrived in front of Cunning Palace. They saw Su Qin standing there quietly. He seemed to have been waiting for a long time. "Third brother," the Emperor of Tang called out uneasily. Su Shimin, Su Sungho, and Su Qingyu looked at Su Qin with a strange look in their eyes. Therefore, at this moment, Su Qin was not only their family, but also a peerless legend who killed the imperial teacher and burned 5 million troops. "I know you have a lot of doubts." Su Qin turned around, looked at the Emperor of Tang and the others, and continued, "But before we talk about those things, let's wake up my little sister first." Su Qin's tone was flat, as if he was an ordinary person. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, no one would associate him with the peerless legend in the Meng Yuan Empire's army. "Okay." The Emperor of Tang's eyes lit up. 2 years ago, Su Yueyun fell into a deep sleep in order to absorb a drop of wood spirit liquid and hasn't woken up since. After a while, Su Qin and the others walked into the depths of Cunning Palace and looked at Su Yueyun lying on the bed. 2 years later, not only did Su Yueyun not change in the slightest, but under the nourishment of the drop of wood spirit liquid in his body, he became younger and younger. "It's about time." Su Qin glanced at him, raised his right hand, and pressed on Su Yueyun's forehead. In less than an instant, Su Yueyun slowly opened his eyes and looked around blankly. "Where is this? Am I not in the Imperial Garden?" Su Yueyun blinked and looked at the Emperor of Tang, Su Shimin, and the others. "You." The Emperor of Tang was overjoyed. Su Shimin, Su Sungho, and Su Qingyu were also overjoyed. After chatting for a while, they once again looked at Su Qin. Su Qin's expression was calm as he said indifferently, "If you have any questions, you can ask now." The Emperor of Tang and the others looked at each other, but no one dared to be the first to speak. In the end, it was Su Sungho who bit the bullet and said, "Just now outside Chang'an City, that person." As soon as Su Sungho said this, everyone, including the Emperor of Tang, pricked up their ears, wanting to hear Su Qin's answer. Although they were mostly sure in their hearts, they still wanted to hear Su Qin's final answer. "I did it." Su Qin glanced at everyone and said calmly. Su Sungho heard this and said with his eyes wide open, "So, you are a martial arts legend?" Su Qin thought for a while and nodded. "More or less." Whether it was Venerable Arhat or martial arts legend, they were all different names for martial artists of the same realm. The power was the same, but the name was different. Hearing Su Qin's admission, whether it was Emperor Li Sheng or the 3 Su family members, they were all shocked. If they hadn't seen the scene on the battlefield with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it even if they were beaten to death. In their eyes, Su Qin, who had always been gentle, was actually a legend who suppressed an era. "Little sister, why aren't you surprised at all?" Su Sungho turned his gaze and saw Su Yueyun's thoughtful look, so he could not help but ask. In his opinion, his little sister, who had been asleep for so long, suddenly found out that her third brother was a martial arts legend. Although she was not shocked, it was impossible for her to be so calm. "Actually, I have always felt that third brother was not an ordinary person," Su Yueyun thought for a while and said. "What?" The Emperor of Tang and family Su looked at each other in disbelief. Even the Emperor of Tang only realized all this after the fact. How could Su Yueyun have such foresight? Su Yueyun saw everyone's confusion and did not keep them in suspense. He said bluntly, "When the 10 vassal lords were commanding millions of troops, I talked to third brother. At that time, third brother told me that nothing would happen. Then, the divine light that reached the sky killed the 10 vassal lords from thousands of miles away. Then why didn't you tell me?" The Emperor of Tang sighed. "At that time, I did not have a good rest for months. If the Emperor of Tang knew that his third brother was a martial arts legend at that time, how could he not be able to sleep? I was not sure at that time. Su Yueyun glared at the Emperor of Tang and continued, "Later, I found that Wan Er's strength improved too quickly. I am also a martial artist, and I know that Wan Er's martial arts talent is indeed good, but it is impossible for her to improve by leaps and bounds. And Wan Er is the one who runs to third brother the most," Su Yueyun continued, "so I was sure that Wan Er's change must have something to do with third brother." The Emperor of Tang's face showed a trace of shame. Over the years, he had put most of his energy into national affairs and did not pay much attention to Li Wan. And finally, third brother made the peach blossoms bloom in the imperial garden in front of me. I am not a fool, Su Yueyun said in the end. So that's what the fragrance of the flowers that day was about. Su Sungho suddenly realized. Su Shimin and the others also came to a realization. At that time, they were also curious about the fragrance of the flowers. Su Qinyu was even prepared to ask Su Qin, but Su Shimin stopped him with the reason that Su Qin needed to rest. As for what happened after, everyone forgot about it and left it unsettled. That's right. Third brother, I actually have a question. At this time, Su Yueyun looked at Su Qin and could not help but ask. Go ahead, Su Qin said lightly. Decades ago, there was a rumor that the Shaolin Temple produced a venerable arhat. Su Yueyun paused for a moment and continued, at that time, third brother, you were also in the Shaolin Temple. As soon as Su Yueyun said this, the rest of the people's faces changed slightly and looked at Su Qin in disbelief. You want to ask, what does the venerable arhat of the Shaolin Temple have to do with me? Su Qin looked at Su Yueyun with a smile on his face. The venerable arhat of the Shaolin Temple is me, Su Qin pondered for a moment and said slowly. Suddenly, Su Shimin and the rest of the family Su felt a huge wave of emotions in their hearts. They never thought that Su Qin already had the strength of the venerable arhat when he was in the Shaolin Temple. Su Qin answered a few more questions. When everyone's doubts were completely resolved, Su Qin continued to speak. Since you all know, now I will give you a choice. The Emperor of Tang and the others' hearts skipped a beat. They immediately knew that what Su Qin was going to say next was probably very important. Thinking of this, everyone held their breath and pretended to listen attentively. P.S. Please vote. Chapter 175. Inside the Cunning Palace. The family Su looked solemnly at Su Qin. Even the Emperor of Tang felt uneasy at this moment, because he didn't know what kind of choice Su Qin was talking about. Would it affect the Empire of Tang and the whole world? If Su Qin was still his third brother, the Emperor of Tang would naturally not have such thoughts, but at this moment, Su Qin is the legend of the martial arts era, venerable arhat. In front of such an existence, a casual thought can shake the world. 1. Maintain your current life, I can guarantee you safety and wealth, and you can live for at least 150 years. Su Qin looked at the crowd and said lightly, live for more than 150 years? Su Shimin's eyes widened, full of disbelief. The two brothers next to him, Su Sungho and Su Qinyu, also had the same expression. One must know that in this world, only by entering the upper realm can a martial artist's shoyuan be slightly extended. Even a grade 1 great grandmaster can only live for more than 150 years. Although the limit of a grade 1 great grandmaster's shoyuan is 200 years, the limit of a shoyuan is the limit of a shoyuan. In fact, not many grade 1 great grandmasters can really live to the limit of a shoyuan. Most of the grade 1 great grandmasters' shoyuan are around 150 years old. And Su Qin can let them live for more than 150 years, which is equivalent to forcibly raising the limit of a shoyuan to the grade 1 great grandmaster level. Even the Emperor of Tang, the Emperor of the Empire of Tang, has never heard of such a method. At least, Taizu, who established the Empire of Tang more than 500 years ago, was far from being able to do it. Third brother, is this true? The Emperor of Tang, Li Xing, asked with a trembling voice. The Emperor of Tang in the past did not live long, and Li Xing has long been prepared for this. Now that he suddenly heard that he can extend the limit of a Shouyuan and even live to 150 years old, how can he continue to be calm? Naturally, it's true. Su Qin nodded. With his current strength at the 7th heavenly layer, he can't guarantee that everyone can live for 200 years, but 150 years is a piece of cake. Su Shimin, Su Sungho and Su Qinyu had happy smiles on their faces. Who doesn't want to live longer and enjoy the glory of the world? Even for those true martial arts experts who devoted their entire lives to martial arts, most of them did so just so they could live a little longer. Only Su Yuan looked at Su Qin and whispered, "Third brother, what is the second choice?" As Su Yuan asked Su Lai the Emperor of Tang and the others suddenly woke up. Su Qin said to give them a choice. Since there is a choice, there must be more than one. Thinking of this, everyone looked at Su Qin again. There is one more. Su Qin nodded slightly and said slowly, I can let you step into the path of martial Dao cultivation, at least to grade 1 great perfection. As for legend, I can only say that there is a glimmer of hope. When these words came out, the entire cunning palace was silent and everyone looked at Su Qin in shock. At least grade 1 great perfection? Hope to become a legend? How is this possible? The Empire of Tang has been established for more than 500 years. Except for the founding father, let alone a legend, even a grade 1 great perfection has not been born. But at this moment, Su Qin is guaranteeing that they can become grade 1 great perfection, and even becoming a legend is not impossible. This was simply inconceivable. I am almost 70 years old, and my vitality has already begun to decline. Can I become grade 1? After a long time, Su Shimin said tremblingly. It is not that Su Shimin does not believe Su Qin, but Su Qin's words are too incredible. If it was before, of course, it would be impossible. But now, when Su Qin said this, a deep meaning flashed in the depths of his eyes. The world has changed. In martial Dao cultivation, if you want to become a truly powerful martial Dao cultivator, you must meditate from a young age, polish yourself day and night, train in the winter, train in the summer, and have a master to guide you. The cultivation technique must also be suitable for you. Finally, after spending decades, you may touch the threshold of the upper realm. But this is the limit of most martial Dao cultivators. To become a true upper realm martial Dao cultivator, opportunity, perception, aptitude, and talent are indispensable. This is also the reason why Su Qin did not guide the family Su's cultivation in the beginning. Because it is not worth it. Even if the family Su paid a huge price, gave up all enjoyment, and devoted all their energy to martial Dao cultivation at most, they would only reach the upper realm. Maybe with the help of Su Qin, they would step into grade 1 great grandmaster. And then? They can only live for more than 100 years. In that case, why not choose the first option, give up martial Dao cultivation, and spend time on things they like, and then let Su Qin extend their Shouyuan for them and live happily for a lifetime. This was also Su Qin's initial idea. Instead of cultivating hard for a lifetime and living for more than 100 years, it is better to enjoy a lifetime and live for more than 100 years. But Su Qin's idea did not change until the recovery of the world's essence qi. The world's essence qi was like a tide, rising and falling. In this era, world's essence qi is in a state of slow recovery. With the recovery of world's essence qi, it is not only the world's essence qi that is gradually becoming richer, but the entire environment of heaven and earth has begun to slowly change, making it easier to cultivate. Of course, it is easier to cultivate compared to before, but it is undeniable that cultivating in this environment, whether it is the speed of cultivation or the breakthrough of bottlenecks, it will become much easier. For example, Su Qin, before the recovery of world's essence qi, it would take at least 40 to 50 years to smoothly enter the 7th heavenly layer, but now, it only took him 2 years to do it. However, Su Qin was able to break through so quickly, not only because of the recovery of world's essence qi, but also because he is the strongest person on this continent at the moment. As a result, under the recovery of world's essence qi, he has obtained the most benefits. Although others are far inferior to Su Qin, they can also obtain benefits. If the family Su re-enters the path of martial Dao under the recovery of world's essence Qi, coupled with the guidance of Su Qin, a seventh heavenly layer legend, with the help of the changes of world, there is really a glimmer of hope to become a legend. Of course, this is only a glimmer of hope. Third brother, what do you mean when you say that world's essence Qi has changed? Su Yueyun calmed down and looked nervously at Su Qin. The others also looked over and held their breaths. They are all smart people and naturally realize the terrifying meaning behind Su Qin's words. In the past, they have no hope of martial Dao. But now they can. The reason for this is the world's essence Qi has changed, that Su Qin mentioned. And what kind of change can cause such an impact? Let's not talk about this for now. Su Qin shook his head slightly. The recovery of world's essence Qi was too complicated to explain, and even if Su Qin explained it, whether the family Su can understand was another matter. Now, tell me your choice. Su Qin's gaze swept across the crowd and said slowly, "Welcome to Legends of Cultivation, audiobooks, where we bring ancient fantasy to life through storytelling. Follow the rise of heroes who defy fate, unlock mystical powers, and battle across celestial realms. Our audiobooks are crafted for fans of Chinese cultivation novels, filled with battles, breakthroughs, and legendary artifacts. Subscribe and be part of an unforgettable journey into the realm of immortality."